Caitlin Clark isn't slowing down, and 2026 might be the year her spotlight gets even brighter. But guess what? The real drama isn't just on the court, it's in how opponent fans are reacting to what's coming next. Caitlin Clark has already changed the conversation around women's basketball, but the idea that her visibility could grow even more in 2026 is what's making the internet restless. Some fans celebrate it, meanwhile, others resist it. And a loud corner of the debate, often framed as Reese fans versus Clark fans, refuses to accept what the trends are clearly pointing toward. Hold on for what's coming, because this isn't about tearing one player down to lift another up. It's about understanding why Clark's game, timing, and cultural position are lining up for an even bigger moment. To understand why 2026 matters so much, you have to start with what Clark already represents. She entered the professional game with unprecedented attention, carrying over a college career that didn't just break records, but broke viewing habits. Fans who never watched women's basketball before tuned in. Arenas sold out. Broadcast numbers climbed, and while other stars absolutely contributed to that growth, Clark became the focal point of the conversation, the name casual viewers recognized first. That kind of recognition doesn't fade quickly, it compounds. Now here's where the tension creeps in. Angel Reese, equally impactful in her own right, represents a different kind of star power. Reese brings physicality, emotion, and an unapologetic presence that resonates deeply with her supporters. Her fan base is passionate, vocal, and loyal, and the rivalry narrative between Reese and Clark has been fueled more by those fan bases than by the players themselves. But guess what? Popularity and visibility don't always grow at the same pace, and that reality is what some fans struggle to accept. As 2026 approaches, several factors are lining up in Clark's favor, and none of them are speculative. First, there's the international stage. With USA basketball preparing for major competitions, the players who already draw mainstream attention naturally become promotional focal points. Clark's style of play translates perfectly to highlight culture. Deep-range shooting, fast decision-making, and logo threes don't just win games, they dominate clips, reels, and broadcasts. That matters more than ever in a digital-first sports economy. Second, Clark's narrative is easy for new audiences to follow. She's positioned as a shooter who changed spacing, forced defensive adjustments, and made long-range scoring feel routine. That kind of identity is simple to understand and easy to market. Reese's impact, while just as real, is more nuanced. It lives in rebounds, physical dominance, and emotional leadership, elements that basketball purists love, but casual viewers don't always latch onto as quickly. And hold on, because this difference doesn't make one player better than the other. It explains why viewership patterns behave the way they do. Another reason Clark's views are likely to climb is continuity. Her story hasn't fractured. From college to the WNBA to USA basketball involvement, the through line has remained intact. Fans feel like they're watching a long-form series rather than isolated episodes. Reese's journey, while compelling, has been framed differently by media narratives that focus more on confrontation and response than on sustained evolution. That framing, fair or not, affects how audiences engage. But guess what really escalates this debate? Numbers don't care about feelings. When games featuring Clark trend higher in engagement, it creates a feedback loop. Broadcasters schedule more prominent slots. Social platforms push more clips. Sponsors invest more heavily. That increased exposure then feeds future viewership, creating momentum that's hard to slow down. Fans who deny this dynamic aren't protecting their favorite player. They're ignoring how modern sports media works. This is where the phrase "Reese fans in denial" gets thrown around, often unfairly. Most Reese supporters aren't denying her impact. They're reacting to a system that seems to reward one type of visibility more than another. But blaming Clark for that system misses the point. She didn't design the algorithm. She didn't choose which clips went viral. She simply plays a style of basketball that fits perfectly into how audiences consume sports in 2025 and beyond. As 2026 nears, Clark's role in international competition could amplify everything. Global audiences gravitate toward recognizable faces, especially players whose skills translate visually across cultures. Long-distance shooting does that. It doesn't require context or explanation. You see it, you understand it. Reese's strengths often require explanation, appreciation of positioning, and understanding of physical battles inside the paint. That difference matters when you're trying to hook a first-time viewer scrolling late at night. But hold on, because here's where the rivalry narrative gets messy. Reese and Clark aren't competing for the same type of fan. Their appeal overlaps, yes, but it isn't identical. Reese's fans value grit, dominance, and emotional authenticity. Clark's fans gravitate toward innovation, spectacle, and statistical disruption. The problem starts when one group treats increased visibility for Clark as a threat to Reese, rather than as evidence that the sport as a whole is expanding. There's also the reality of timing. Clark entered the league during a perfect storm of momentum, media readiness, and public curiosity. Reese followed closely, but narratives often latch onto the first symbol of a movement more tightly than those who come right after. That doesn't diminish Reese's legacy. It explains why Clark's ceiling for views might still be rising. Another factor driving 2026 interest is expectation. Audiences now tune in not just to see Clark succeed, but to see how defenses respond. Every season becomes a question. Can they stop her range? Will she adapt? Will she push the boundary even further? That anticipation fuels clicks and views. Reese's dominance is more consistent, more expected, which ironically can make it feel less surprising to casual viewers even when it's equally impressive. But guess what? This doesn't mean Reese is fading. It means the conversation around her impact is happening on a different frequency. Fans who frame this as a zero-sum battle are missing how both players benefit from each other's presence. The rivalry keeps both names circulating. It keeps debates alive, and it keeps women's basketball at the center of sports culture instead of the margins. The denial narrative really exposes something else entirely. It exposes discomfort with change. For decades, women's basketball fought for visibility. Now that visibility is unevenly distributed, some fans feel betrayed by the system they once wanted recognition from. Clark becoming a viewership magnet forces a reckoning with how attention actually works. And that reckoning is uncomfortable. As 2026 approaches, the signs are clear. Clark's influence isn't peaking, it's evolving. More international exposure, more primetime moments, and more casual fans discovering her game for the first time all point in one direction. Reese will continue to dominate her lane, inspire her supporters, and leave her mark, but Clark's trajectory aligns almost perfectly with where sports media is headed next. Hold on, because the biggest twist isn't who gets more views, it's how the rivalry itself is driving growth. Every argument, every comparison, every viral debate pushes more eyes toward the league. Fans arguing online are still watching games, critics are still clicking highlights, and in that sense, both players are winning. So when people say Reese fans are in denial, what they're really pointing to is resistance to accepting a changing landscape. Clark's rise doesn't erase Reese's impact, it reshapes the conversation around what visibility looks like in a new era of women's basketball. And 2026 might be the year that truth becomes impossible to ignore. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about one player stealing the spotlight. It's about a spotlight that's finally big enough to expose every crack in how we talk about stars, rivalries, and recognition. And Caitlin Clark, whether people like it or not, is standing right at the center of it. 2026 isn't just another season, it's a turning point in how women's basketball is seen and consumed. And whether fans accept it or fight it, Caitlin Clark's pull is only getting stronger.